Yo, what it do, people? Welcome back to another video, man. It's your boy Tony, aka Two Tone. I want to start the video off by saying I'm at 98 subscribers. I need 2 more subscribers before I get to 100. And I just want to appreciate everybody who has subscribed. Thank you for helping me reach this goal. We gonna continue to get better, get more consistent, and we want to see that number go up. Just want to get that out the way. But man, let's talk about it, man. I had to take some time to cool off from Sunday's game, man. That loss to Sevilla was something. The way it went down was crazy to me, bro. Like, I don't really know how it got so bad so fast, but here we are. And some people may just think, bro, it's only 2 games off the bounce. Don't make a big deal of it. It's like, we went through something like this last year and we bounced back. And I agree with all of that. It is still early. We did go through something similar like this last year, but I think it's a bit different this season. I genuinely do, because remember last year, winning the domestic treble, making it to the semis of the Champions League. One thing we really were able to avoid last season was injuries. Because if you really look at the squad this year, not too much have changed. If anything, we lost a few guys, but we was able to replace them. And we added a goalkeeper. So squad depth wise, like number wise, it's about the same. But it felt like we had plenty last season because a lot of guys didn't get injured. What we're seeing now with this year's version, and it's not just the last 2 games too, I'm going to get into the other games as well, but what we're seeing now with this year's squad, it almost makes me feel like, damn, we really should have capitalized on our opportunity to win the Champions League last season, because you really don't get that kind of luck avoiding injuries to key players like how we did last season. Rafinha, for the most part, was there every game. He played a shit ton of games. Lamine Yamal, being young, playing that many games, he was fine. Pedri has a history with being injured. He was fine. Lewandowski, a year younger, a year sharper. He was fine for the most part, from what I can remember. We really didn't have to really worry about any major injuries. The only one that's coming to my mind, I'm sure somebody will remind me in the comments, but the only major injury that came to mind was Ter Stegen. And to be honest, I wasn't too upset with it. I'm not sitting here saying I was wishing on the man's injury or anything like that, but I knew nothing was going to change if he stayed healthy. So seeing him not only go down with an injury and understanding it was a significant injury, it felt like a sacrifice that had to be made to force Barcelona's hand to basically go out there and find a new goalkeeper. And that's why we was able to get Szczesny, ultimately then getting John Garcia in the summer. But, outside of that, that was only... Gavi got hurt last year, right? Was that last season? Somebody help remind me of that. All this is off the top of my head, bro. I just really want to chat about these last 2 games and a bigger picture of the season. But my point still stands that we really didn't have to deal with injuries like how we're dealing with this season. And because you're seeing a lot of guys get injured already this season, we got Rafinha out, we got Lamine Yamal out. Remember in the beginning of the season, Lewandowski was out. That's why we had to start with Ferran Torres. Who else was out? We now have Gavi out in the midfield. We got Fermin Lopez is out in the midfield, forcing guys like Dani Olmo to play every game. And we're going to get on Dani Olmo as well, because he's been awful. Balde, your annual injury with him. We lost Inigo, so we never really had to replace him. So we're a number lighter in that department. But I will say the center backs, for the most part, have been healthy. So that's a good thing. Knock on wood on that. The fullback situation, Koundé I remember early in the season he was recovering from an injury, but for the most part he's been fine. And our goalkeeper situation with John Garcia, him being out. So we're dealing with injuries at key positions. And it made me realize that this team is not like the squad depth that we have, the way the team is being built, how it looks. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, it's not a team that's capable of winning the Champions League. I don't believe so. Only way I change my mind is if we have our full 11 healthy throughout the knockout stages. The moment we lose one of our wingers, we lose one of our midfielders, the drop off from the starting 11 to the players coming off the bench, while they can service a role and play a few games here and there, the quality is not good enough. We saw it last year. And respect to Eric Garcia, because I believe he's been our best center back this year. But when he came in from Koundé, there was a drop off. Maybe not as far as talent wise. Koundé is better than Eric Garcia. Like, I'm not already gonna say they're on the same part, but Eric Garcia served a role, but we still missed something with Koundé on the right side. Lord knows we missed Balde on that left hand side when we had to go in with Gerard Martin. And yes, he had a solid game in that one game at Inter because he got 2 assists, and he was making some tackles here and there, but he was still a part of something we were missing. He was still a part of the mistakes that were made that led to us ultimately getting knocked out of the Champions League. A lot of times Inter was attacking down his side. It's just a bit different when you don't have your starting fullbacks in. And while you still don't expect teams to go 100% healthy throughout the season, injuries are going to happen. You look back, and I know for me, I'm thinking, damn, man, we really should have did something with that. At least make it to the final and give ourselves a solid chance to win that, because you just never know. Especially knowing Hansi Flick's record in finals. Hansi Flick already beat PSG in the final before. You just never would have known. Now, obviously, watching to see how they played against us just a few days ago, it wouldn't have been as easy as what maybe some Barcelona fans thought, but I would have still liked to have the opportunity, because with the amount of games played, just to have a few weeks off and tell these guys have that same level of intensity to go into the next season, while understanding this is a World Cup year for a lot of y'all. So while some guys is on the fringes, they're going to try to do their best and play their best to make the World Cup. These guys already know they got that spot locked in, but they just got more games under their belt. You start to see it take its toll, man. And like I said, when we have to rely on, when you got Rafinha out and Lamine Yamal out, we have to consistently rely on guys like Ferran Torres. Ferran Torres against Sevilla was awful. He was awful. I don't know why he started out on left. I think that left flank, if it's not Rafinha, it should automatically be Rashford. No question asked. But when you got guys out, he gets to start almost every time. And we see the drop off with Ferran Torres as a winger. I know I made a video talking about him as a striker and why if we went for a striker next year it could be a mistake, but I've already changed my mind on that, bro. Because I've seen the kind of striker that he is. He's good against weaker teams that don't have physical center backs, but against the elite in Europe, physical center backs, pacey, strong, he gets ate up in those matches. He didn't have a good Champions League campaign last year because the quality steps up. And look at him now in this Champions League campaign. So far, he hasn't really, he hasn't had good games. He'll press here and there. He'll get you the odd goal, but I'm looking at performances, bro. And to me, his performances really doesn't warrant what you would expect out of a Barcelona number 9. So, and that's okay. He's supposed to be a rotational piece, but when your squad depth is not there, now we have to rely on the 37-year-old striker to lead our front line. I've already said, and I'll repeat, any team that is serious about winning the Champions League, they don't have a 37-year-old striker starting. That's just a fact. So I see things like that. I see that as soon as Lamine and or Rafinha goes out, we're fucked. Thank God we have Rashford, or it'll be a lot worse. Midfield, I love Pedri to death, and this is not his fault, but the way we rely on Pedri, it bothers me. And we over rely on Frankie as well. That game when we had to come back and beat Real Oviedo 3-1. Remember at halftime we was losing 1-0. And I remember saying the first sub has to be take Casado off and put on Frankie de Jong. But my concern was this team, newly promoted team in La Liga, Barcelona can't get control of the match for real. And we got Pedri running box to box, running him down, and he's doing everything to try to pull the strings, and it didn't work because we ended up with no goals in the first half. And I remember thinking to myself, damn, we really have to start Frankie de Jong and Pedri in the midfield, and Dani Olmo, because he didn't have a good game that game either. But we really have to go with our best midfield trio. Now, me personally, I'm going with Fermin Lopez as a better player than Dani Olmo, but he wasn't available during that game, so we had to go with Dani Olmo. That was our best three available midfielders to finally unlock a team like Real Oviedo. And that's no disrespect to them. No disrespect. But I'm thinking we should be able to rest one of our or two of our starting midfielders to be able to beat a team like Real Oviedo. We shouldn't have to exert so much energy to put into a game to try to come back from. That tells me that that's another sign that midfield is light. Lord knows what this midfield looks like if Frankie gets hurt, or if Pedri gets hurt, Caesar's wraps. But if Frankie de Jong is hurt and he's out for let's say several weeks or a month and a half, that's, especially now with no Gavi, Marc Casado, he's okay. He's a solid player. But I don't know if he's ready to start week in and week out and not see the difference between a Frankie de Jong and Marc Casado. That's just me speaking honestly. And at the center back position, when you think about the defense, I've always said that we should have signed somebody at left back because we can anticipate that Balde is going to get hurt. I don't know what and why. Maybe it's a style of play. Maybe he don't have the best diet. I don't know. But every year since he's been a pro, he's been injured. So you gotta anticipate he's going to be injured. So are we really okay with Gerard Martin minutes? And I don't want to single him out, but let's just call it for what it is. Average at best. He's not a Barcelona fullback. You know, to me, when I think of Gerard Martin, I think of somebody who starts for like a Wolves in the Premier League. You know, something like that. You know, lower table Premier League starter, who could turn into something that could be a backup for a Big Six team in the Prem, you know, or something like that. Could turn into, but when I think of fullbacks for Barcelona, I think of good defenders who express themselves going forward. But we don't get that from him. Koundé at right back, he did a really good job converting himself to a right back. We already know his primary position is center back, but with Barcelona, it's now right back. But again, not to single out any player, when I think of a Barcelona fullback, especially right back, I'm thinking of something a lot more expressionable going forward, if that makes sense. Koundé is a dog. Don't ever get it twisted. I think he's one of the best in his position. But for me, when it comes to flavor, you know, what I'm looking for, I look for something different. And shout out to Eric Garcia. He's made himself a very serviceable backup right back. But he has made himself very important at the center back position. So if something happens to Koundé, we're not going to be pulling Eric Garcia out, which he can do a role at right back. But he showed us that this season he's probably our best center back. So if something happens to one, we now have to overcompensate and shuffle and hope we get the same results. But in reality, we won't. The squad's not that deep. And with Hansi Flick's system, man, we seen this in the ending of the first half against PSG and all of the second half, and the first half against Sevilla. When you got tired players, That system you want to run with a high line that's pressing, it doesn't work when you got tired players. So you have to adapt. You have to, hey man, we got 7 games in 21 days. And on top of that, these guys is going to be going to international break right afterwards or before. So you got to come up with something where my squad is kind of light. I'm asking Pedri now to play his 3rd straight game, 90 minutes. Or I'm asking Rashford to play. So I need to come up with a system that can help protect my players so we don't, it's not such a back and forth, but we're doing it with dead legs. I believe when you got guys that are fresh, you got a deep squad, and you play that system, it can be ruthless. And I believe as long as you don't get injured, we seen that last year. Look what the results held to Barcelona. We was 1 game away from reaching a final and possibly winning a quadruple. So I'm not forgetting what was done last year. But again, because we weren't able to capitalize and win the Champions League last year, we had to settle for domestic trouble. And I say settle, but the reality is we all know we're still hunting for that Champions League. And the fact that we weren't able to win it last year, and now this year we're dealing with some fortunes that we didn't have to deal with last year, which is dealing with more injuries. A key position in Inigo we weren't able to replace, so now we got to pull guys out of that position. We're just hoping that more injuries don't happen because we know the schedule is going to continue. Like, it doesn't get lighter. As we get into the fall and the winter, it's going to be more games played. When we get to January, February, more international games, you got more games played in the domestic league. And then post-March, it's just straight closer of the season. And then we got the Champions League. It's a lot of different things going on, man. And you got to have a deep squad to be able to maintain that, and I just don't think we do. I'm gonna be honest, I don't. Going into the season, I was confident. I really was. I thought we were one of the Champions League favorites, and I'm not saying this, we're not going to do it. I just don't believe we have the squad, the tools to be able to really realistically go for a Champions League this year. Now, if Barcelona ends up in the 1-1, and I know we've been saying that forever, but if we end up in a 1-1 and we can get in an elite striker, whether that's Julian Alvarez or Haaland, Guirassy, I believe is his name, from Dortmund. I like him. There's names out there, Harry Kane, would we take a chance? Who knows? You just never really know. But if we can get an elite striker, if we can get a first team quality center back, Bastoni is my dream signing, but I don't think that's going to happen. Schlotterbeck, they say he may be available and for a reasonable fee because his contract is going to be up in 2027. So that could be something. But if we can get a Schlotterbeck, something like that, an elite striker, I still say try to get a fullback. And this may sound surprising, but I say maybe get another midfielder somewhere in there that can help Pedri and Frankie de Jong. I know we normally had that to an extent with Gavi, but with these injuries, until he can get out of that, I don't really know if we ever can get the same Gavi that we were anticipating when he won the Golden Boy Award. So we need to be prepared for if he goes down. We need to be in a situation where we're not so fucked if Pedri is down, if Frankie de Jong is out for a month or so. I feel like now, if any of those two go down, our season's in jeopardy. So the ideal situation is to find somebody who can take a bit of that pressure off of those guys having to be healthy and available to pull in results. I will go for midfield. And then winger, I will keep Rashford, sign him permanently, or try to get him on another loan at least. I know we still got Rafinha. We still got Lamine Yamal. You hope with Rooney a year in, he'll be more reliable. He's young. He's a bit raw. I don't want to be hard on him, but we need more. The drop-off is noticeable with Lamine Yamal to Rooney. And it's no knock to Rooney. Lamine Yamal is one of the better talents in the world. He was second in the Ballon d'Or. So any player in that position is going to feel like a drop-off. But with him being young, and I know Lamine is young as well, but Lamine's arc is just unique. That's not normal. So Rooney's arc at his young age and his progression is on schedule. It's ahead of schedule for your average player, if I'm being honest. But he ain't what Lamine is. So when he's not available, that drop is real. I know we could normally slide Rafinha to the right, but I'm gonna be honest, I like Rafinha more in a free roam or coming off the left. Him off the right, he's okay, but I feel like after we have seen him play in the middle / left with a guy like Lamine on that right hand side, there's a reason why he put up the numbers that he put up, and we miss that, and we need that. So I know I was rambling, but I just had to get that off my chest. I definitely want to hear what you guys got to, say about this video, because again, I love Barcelona. All of us here, we love Barcelona. Big fans of the club, right? But the reality is, this team don't look as good as last year, even understanding the drought that we went on last year. And the main issue is just because we're a year into the system, so more teams are figuring it out. These players look a little more tired. We're not seeing the same kind of intensity and pressing and creating opportunities. I feel like in some games we should be blowing teams out and we're barely skating by. And now we got injuries to key guys that we didn't have last year, and it just makes it all feel a bit different, man. It really does. So that's my truth. I hope I'm wrong and Barcelona wins the Champions League, and people can go back to this video and be like, remember when you were saying that you don't think they were? I would love that. I really would. But I look at certain teams out there, man, PSG being one of them. The amount of guys that they were missing and the way that they played us off the park at home, bro. If we were missing the same amount of guys, and we were missing guys, but it wasn't to that level, we wouldn't be looking like how PSG look, especially if we had to go somewhere on the road, an environment like PSG. So it just kind of showed me there's still levels. There's levels. And our main issue is really the squad depth. We didn't really spin like how I thought we were going to spin. So y'all let me know what y'all think on that, man. Like I said, that's just how I feel. I do feel like you never really know, but if I had to be honest and give you an answer today, I would say that we missed out on an opportunity to win that Champions League last year, because with the way that the team looks with injuries, and you really kind of see that it's been exposed on how thin this squad is, I look at that and I got to be honest with myself and say that I don't think this is our year to win the Champions League. Now, domestically, we can still win the league. We can still pull out a Copa del Rey, Super Copa. I still think these things are accessible. But the Champions League, I don't think we're ready yet. But if we have the summer next year that I'm expecting us to have, if we're going back to the 1-1, back at the new camp, we done sold the VIP seats, all the good news, right? And we're back to being us. If we spend our money right, I do think that season is the one to really look out for the Champions League. But y'all let me know what y'all think on that, man. Like I said, I appreciate y'all if y'all made it this far. I know I was rambling, but I'm just getting things off my mind, man. Just really just discussing this, because I do think this kind of recent stretch is highlighting a bigger concern, not just about the last two games, but just taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. But I definitely want to know what you guys think about this. Leave a comment in the video. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Again, I'm almost at 100. And yeah, man, I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one. And until then, Two Tone out.